So just so we can do this at the top, what parts of this don't feel very Jesus-y to you? The last part. Keep awake, therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour. Or maybe the verse before that. Truly, I do not know you, right? The door was shut. Doesn't say who shut the door. It just says the door was shut. What else doesn't feel terribly Jesus-y to you about this parable?
He's omniscient and didn't know something.
Say that again?
He's omniscient and doesn't know something.
Yeah, there's something that he doesn't know. Well, again, we're assuming that this is Jesus, who is the Lord, which I'll try to disabuse you of that notion in a minute. What else about this doesn't feel very like Jesus-y or consistent with the values of Christ? Not sharing, right? You're supposed to share with the foolish ones, right? We're supposed to take care of our brother and sister, right? Well, I'll just tell you, number one, up front, parables are never direct allegories. This is not about God and how God is. I just want to say that up front. Hopefully I'll prove that to you in a minute. All of us are called to tend a flame of some kind. All of us are called to carry and bear the light. And one thing that the parable never asks the question of is why? Why are these 10 women out there carrying this light? No one ever asks that question. It's just assumed that's what you do. You carry a light. But why? Why do you think that these 10 people would be committed to doing this work of carrying this light at this particular time in this particular place?
Since they're going out to meet the bridegroom.
They're going out to meet the bridegroom. What are they trying to do? Well, they're not the ones, right? So this, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the historical context of this, but at the time in first century Palestine, you would have these kind of elaborate ritual ceremonies where the bridegroom, that's the dude, would come to the bride's house, and they'd have like this kind of festival gathering, but the actual wedding ceremony would be a small private affair, and then they'd travel together back to the groom's house, and there'd be an even bigger party there. And so it's not super clear which of these two major parties it is, but it's some preparation for this big party. The groom comes to the bride's house, and then they go together back to the groom's house, and it's over the course of a couple of weeks, and there's lots of partying and so forth that's happening. So these are unmarried women. It says in the Greek it uses the term virgin, but we know that that term is usually just used to specify an unmarried woman, like how we use miss, although we use that differently now, apparently. But anyway, so that's the context. They know they're not getting married. They're the unmarried women that are in that community, probably connected to the bride's family. My personal opinion, they're trying to get the party started, right? Why are they waiting for the bridegroom? Because the party can't start until the bridegroom comes. Now, whether this is him coming to the bride's house for them to party, him bringing the bride back to his house to party, the party doesn't start till he gets there. And they're trying to be ready to party. Each of us has something, some gift that we have to give to get the party started. These 10 women have the gift of the light. They have the gift of the light to give to get the party started. Do you know what your gift is that you can bring to get the party started? Do you know, are you prepared to start a fire, get some excitement going? We often think about fire as destructive, but remember, that's how light was created at night in these communities, and in our communities up until not that long. And electricity is relatively new, folks, right? We're all afraid of fire now because we controlled it and contained it, but like, it's really important. And I mean, how many of you know how to start a fire? Not that many of us, right? That would have been a survival skill not that long ago. Now, it's not that big a deal. We all can pull out a lighter or a book of matches. Not a lot of scouting in this group. But they're ready to party. They're ready to give their gift to start the party. Now comes the second question. Why were the 5 sent back? Why were the 5 sent back? The foolish ones were sent back to go get more oil. Why didn't they share? Well, think about it this way. Exactly. We're here ready to start the party. And if we run out of oil, there's no light. We don't have our gift to give as light. Y'all didn't bring extra, so what we need you to do, instead of seeing this as dismissive or derogatory towards those people, it's like, no. You have to be ready to keep the party going after we run out. So we're going to stay here with our oil and our lamps lit. You go get more so that when you come back, you now know you need extra so you can keep the party going after we run out. It doesn't have to be this dismissive or antagonistic thing. It's almost this, I've got this work to do right now, and I need you. If you can't do this work with me right now, cool. I need you to be ready to do the next work after me.
Why would they consider foolish then?
Why were they foolish? Because they weren't prepared for how long it was going to take. Like I think about Septima Clark, I think about freedom schools and the citizenship schools starting to do that in the 50s, starting to teach illiterate black people how to read so that they could take citizenship tests so they could vote. That's long game strategy, people. That's not what do we need right now in this moment. That's what do we need right now in this moment to build capacity for movement work. So I got to bring extra oil because I know this is a long game here. I don't know when that dude's coming. You all know this guy. He's flaky as hell, and he's out there pre-funking right now. He's not going to be here soon. Come on. You met this guy. I brought extra oil because I know how long this is going to take. Now, the funny part is they all fell asleep. So that last line about keep awake for you know not neither the day nor the hour, they weren't foolish because they fell asleep, because all of them fell asleep, because it took forever, right? Of course we're going to get tired. The question is, do we have some reserves in us so that when we're called upon to do the work, we have some extra oil in our lamp, ready to do the work that's in front of us? And if you don't have extra, if you can't show up and do this work that's in front of us right now, cool, go get yourself something so that you can come back and continue the work that we start. It's not a rejection of you, it's just saying maybe this work right here, right now, that's not your work. Maybe this thing that we need to do in the world right now, maybe that's not your thing. Maybe your thing is something else. Maybe we need to prepare the world for you to be able to do your work. So go get whatever you need to get to do the next thing. Because everybody is tending a fire, but we might be tending different fires. You dig? So I was listening to a sermon by T.D. Jakes, and he said this beautiful thing about this piece of scripture. He said, there is nothing worse than the regret that comes from getting serious too late. There is nothing worse than the regret that comes from getting serious too late. There are some things that we can run out of time on learning how to do. There are some things that we need to be prepared for, that if we get to the time where that thing needs to happen and we're not prepared, we can't get prepared. We don't have time to get prepared. There's some things we can figure out in the last minute, but there's a lot of stuff we can't. So what do we need to be preparing for now so that when that moment comes, we're ready? I think about the bystander intervention work that I do, and I think about how when somebody's triggered, when they're in crisis, when they're activated, you don't have time to think about what you need to do. Mostly, number one, because that's going to go very quickly. Whatever's happening is going to go very quickly. And number two, that emotional energy in the room is sky high, which means your thinking brain, if you don't know how to manage it, make yourself calm in the midst of crisis, you're done. You're toast, right? Your cortisol levels and your adrenaline's going to be going off, and you're going to be just as reactive as they are. But if you've prepared yourself, if you learned how to calm your body, calm your nervous system, if you've learned how to show up peaceful in the midst of crisis and chaos, then you can use that skill. But if crisis and chaos hits you before you've learned how to do that, you can't learn it right then. How many of you have been in a situation where things were spinning out of control and you felt them spinning you out of control with them? And how many times have you seen things spinning out of control and you knew how to keep yourself grounded and centered. You remembered how to breathe. You remembered how to say, God's with me. I don't have to do this alone. We just need to get through the next minute. And you were able to bring the emotional energy down, or at least keep it from escalating, or at least keep the room a little safer. At least shed some of your light because you had extra oil in your lamp. There's some stuff we do need to learn. There's some stuff that Jesus has to teach us that we do need to learn, but we can't learn it when we get to the point that we need it. We have to know it in our bodies before we get there. That's why they spent so much time in the Citizenship School and the Freedom Schools training up people how to respond when you sit at a lunch counter and somebody dumps a plate of food on your head. How to not get reactive, how to not fight and kick and curse and yell and scream because that wasn't going to do the work. And if you couldn't do that, then cool. Go get some more oil and come back to finish the next thing that we got to do. But you can't do this thing. Because right now, this thing calls for a specific set of skills and abilities. What are the things that this current political, historical moment that we're in, what does it call for from people of faith? What is the oil necessary that we need to be carrying extra of so that we can meet the moment that we're in right now? Compassion. Patience. Vigilance and tolerance. Courage. Extra cash. Gold bars preferably. Ammunition. Oh my God, you guys. I think about being able to call on the word, not the words, but the word. So my son was struggling the other night. I know I've gotten a lot of advice from teachers to don't talk about your kids. He won't remember this, so it's fine. If he was in the room, it might be different. But anyway, he's been struggling a lot with nightmares lately. Being scared. He watched like 5 minutes of a Tim Burton movie, and that has just like burned. That was a parenting fail. I own that 100%. I watched 5 minutes of a Tim Burton movie, and now he just keeps talking about Frankenweenie all the time. Just a zombie dog. Anyway, and so he has these nightmares, and he's like, I'm like, no, you can't not think about something. You have to choose to think about something else. How many of you know this? Don't think about an elephant. You already failed, right? You can't not think about something. You have to think about something else. This is exactly how Jesus talks about demons. You can't just cast the demons out because they'll go roam around the wilderness and then they'll come back and they'll find the house swept and empty and they'll move back in with their 7 buddies, right? You have to put something in the house instead. And he says to me, well, I don't think I can do it. I said, that's fine. You don't have to do it. God will do it. You just have to trust that God will do it. You don't have to have the strength. You're not supposed to have the strength. It's not for you to power it by yourself. There was something about that not having to do it that allowed him to do it with the help of God. So as I've been thinking about where are we building up our resources and our power to be able to face those things that scare us and terrify us and frustrate us, disappoint us? Where are we filling up? What are we filling up our lamp with? Okay, so last part of the parable. I don't know you. The door was shut. I don't think that this is supposed to be God. Now, all the commentaries talk about this like it is, and they talk about the oil in your lamp being, the power of faith. You just stock up on your faith because you'll get to the judgment and Jesus will be like, nope. I don't think so. You know what I think this is? I think this is that guy who, when he meets somebody, he builds relationships through contact. And if he meets you in a certain capacity, then, he knows you. Oh yeah, the server, his name's Greg. Yeah, he's great, I love him. I met him 2 seconds ago, but I learned his name and he brought me my drink and he's fabulous. I love that guy. Give him a tip. This other rando who comes in, who hasn't provided me any service, I don't know you. I don't know what company you work, I don't know anything about you. See, I think this is just a fickle human. I don't think it's God. I think it's somebody that just builds relationships by contact. And those 5 bridesmaids, they were there with the light, and he got to see their faces, and he got to meet them, and they came in to the party. And the other 5 came late, and even though they're part of the same party, he doesn't know them. He says, I don't know you, get out of here. He doesn't really know the other 5 either, but he thinks he does. Now, what's the point here? This isn't about God. This is about the fact that those 5 who had the extra oil were in the right place at the right time to build the relationship with this person, to do the work of establishing the party. And there's going to be times where you're late to the party, where you don't have the connections, you don't have the relationships, you didn't meet the person beforehand. You can't leverage that power because you weren't there, you weren't ready, you weren't prepared.
These are random women. If the 5 that were foolish enough not to bring that oil, he must have known. Let's see what any of these people come.
But what if they're, see, I think that they're the bride's party. I think the groom doesn't know them. I think they're there to support their sister, right? This is, previously was 11 single women who would have known each other and had tight relationships in order to protect each other, because this is a dangerous world for a woman to be in, right? And the sexes are generally segregated in this time. So a lot of men wouldn't know these women. The only way you get to meet a single woman is if your parents set it up for you, right? There's a lot of control, rigid gender hierarchy that's really about, well, I mean, you can make a lot of arguments for what it's about, but a small piece of it is about protecting vulnerable people, women specifically. So I think that this was her girls, and her husband, or the bridegroom, doesn't know them and isn't in a relationship with them. And she's not there answering the door. That wouldn't be her role. So somebody comes knocking and says, hey, you know, it's like the wedding crasher. Like, oh yeah, I know. What's the groom's name? James. I know James. Yeah, this is James. Who are you? Wedding started an hour ago. Get out of here. You know, I don't think that this has anything to do with the quality of the women, for the one being left out and one being not. I think it's about right place, right time. And sometimes we're going to be prepared to be in the right place at the right time, and sometimes that's going to build relationships that's going to allow us to leverage power, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes we're not going to be ready for it. And that's why he says, keep awake ye therefore, or actually it's not really keep awake, it's like be prepared. We translate it as keep awake, but it's actually more nuanced than that in the Greek, and it's more like be prepared, for you never know the day or the hour. You never know when some point of contact you make with somebody will save their life. You never know when a good word you give, an ability to stay calm, prevents something terrible from happening, prevents somebody from spinning out. You never know when that little bit of money that you feel called to give to somebody who's on the street actually changes their life or not. But if you're tuned in to God, you might have an opportunity to do that one thing that only you can do in that one moment, because the door will be shut. And those that weren't prepared and weren't tuned in were not able to do the work. So keep awake ye therefore, be prepared ye therefore, for you know not the day nor the hour when you're going to be called upon to light the fire and start the party to celebrate the kingdom of God.